Okay, so when I say Visa, what's the first thing that pops into your head? A credit card, right? Of course. But here's the thing. For all its power in the credit card world, Visa's real empire, its true dominance, is in a place you might not expect: the debit card market. We're going to dive into this because the story of how that happened, well, it's a wild ride of brilliant strategy, corporate warfare, and a huge showdown over the future of money itself. And I mean, you don't have to take my word for it, just look at the numbers. In the US, Visa handles something like 70% of all debit card transactions. That is a way tighter grip than the 55 to 60% share it has in the credit card world. And you know, this didn't just happen by accident. What's crazy is that Visa actually failed, and failed spectacularly, at debit cards the first time around. So how on earth did they go from a total flop to the undisputed king? To get that, we have to go back. So before Visa was even Visa, it was part of this program called Bank AmeriCard. And in the late 1960s, the whole system wasn't just messy, it was a complete and utter disaster, literally teetering on the brink of total collapse. And right into the middle of all this chaos walks our main character, a guy named Dee Hock. He was this fascinating, contradictory genius, once described as half hippie and half Stalin. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? He was the totally unlikely visionary who looked at this broken system and somehow saw a way to fix it. You gotta picture what it was like back then. The customer experience was a nightmare. You'd have to wait like 15 minutes while a cashier called in to get your purchase authorized. Payments were done with these clunky manual zip-zap machines. And fraud? Oh, it was everywhere. Criminals were stealing blank cards, embossing them with fake names. Banks were losing hundreds of millions of dollars. It was pure chaos. So Dee Hock looks at all this and he realizes the core problem. Bank of America was trying to be both a competitor to all the other banks and the referee making the rules. His solution was pretty radical for the time. He said, let's create a brand new neutral organization that's owned by all the member banks and let them run the show. After a huge, furious showdown, Bank of America finally gave in, and NBI, the company that would become Visa, was born. All right, so with the credit card system finally stabilized and computerized, Hock starts looking for the next big thing. His new mission: to kill the paper check. And this led to Visa's first, and famously unsuccessful, attempt at a debit card. See, Hock had this incredibly forward-thinking idea. He thought, why do these little plastic cards have to be just for debt? He envisioned an asset card, one single card that could access the money you already have in your bank account. In the 1970s, this was a revolutionary concept, and he saw it as the ultimate weapon against the expensive, fraud-heavy paper check. But the card, which they called Entry, was a total bust, a complete failure. So what went wrong? Well, for one, it used the same slow, less secure signature method as credit cards, so transactions took days to actually clear. But the bigger problem? The banks hated it. They made money on the float, the interest they earned while your checks were slowly clearing, and they absolutely hated the idea of a credit card company like NBI muscling in on electronic fund transfers. That was their turn. So while Visa's big debit card idea is crashing and burning, something else is bubbling up under the surface. A rival technology was quietly growing, one that came from those cash machines that were starting to pop up on every street corner. And this new system, it posed a direct threat to Visa's entire empire. What was driving all this? The ATM. I mean, the growth was just explosive. In about a decade, the number of ATMs in the US skyrocketed, and in the process, millions of Americans got really comfortable with a brand new routine: stick a card in a machine, type in a 4-digit PIN. That simple little habit was about to become the foundation for Visa's biggest nightmare. So this sets up a huge showdown, right? Two totally different visions for how debit should work. On one side, you have Visa's signature debit. It's slow and it charges merchants a percentage of every sale. On the other side, you have the ATM network's PIN debit. It's instant, it's way more secure, and it charges a tiny flat fee. I mean, on paper, it's no contest. PIN debit was clearly the better option for pretty much everyone. So this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You've got a system that's cheaper, faster, and safer. It looks like the superior technology in every way. So how in the world did the ATM networks lose this fight? The answer is Visa's absolutely ruthless counterattack. Faced with this existential threat, Visa didn't just decide to compete. No, they launched an all-out, multi-pronged war to completely conquer the very market they had just failed to even get into. Okay, so here's the playbook. It was a four-part masterstroke. First, they infiltrated the enemy. They bought up stakes in the big PIN networks to learn all their secrets. Second, they persuaded the banks. They showed them projections that proved they'd make way more money from percentage fees than from tiny flat fees. Third, they forced the merchant's hand. They used their honor all cards rule, which basically said, hey, if you want to accept our popular credit cards, you have to accept our new debit card too. And finally, they seduced the public with a massive ad campaign, brilliantly branding it as the check card to make it feel familiar and safe. And just to show you what they were up against, look at this. Back in 1994, before this strategy really kicked into high gear, PIN debit was the king of the hill. They were comfortably ahead, leading by over 150 million transactions. The ATM networks were winning. But then, fast forward just 5 years. 5. Look what happened. The tables didn't just turn. They were completely flipped over. Visa's signature debit transactions exploded to 4 billion, blowing right past PIN debit. It was one of the most astonishing reversals in business history, a complete takeover. Visa didn't just win, it absolutely crushed the competition. Now, a victory that total, that absolute, well, it doesn't go unnoticed. It immediately got the attention of retailers and regulators, and it kicked off decades of legal battles that are, believe it or not, still going on today. And this fight is far from over. It started with a massive lawsuit from Walmart and others way back in 1996. Then, in 2003, Visa had to pay out billions in a settlement. In 2010, the Durbin Amendment put a cap on their fees. And as recently as 2024, the Department of Justice filed yet another antitrust suit against them. This has been a non-stop battle. When you boil it all down, every single one of these lawsuits comes back to one big, powerful question. Did Visa win fair and square, or did they just use their existing monopoly in credit cards to bully the market, crush a better, cheaper technology, and force everyone to use their more expensive product? And that really brings us to today, doesn't it? We don't use those old zip-zap machines anymore, but the payment networks built back then still handle nearly every single dollar we spend. In our world that's becoming more and more cashless, it leaves us with a critical question. Does the company that owns the rails of the economy just have too much power over all of us? It's definitely something to think about the next time you pull out your card.